blood the boys come, like sniffing dogs.
All right, now you got too much
slobbering,
radiation.
trying to find out where that smell is.
Ew. That's what we needed to see right there. All right, that's good.
Hey, it's Heidi and Satan. I mean, Stefan.
Yes, and welcome back to another edition of the Ice Cream Parlor.
Which I guess you could theoretically call season 2.
Yeah, right. That's a good way of putting it. Season 2. Starting fresh in a brand new year. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy
2021.
Post-inauguration day.
Yeah. A lot of new changes in the world.
Absolutely. I even brushed my hair for this episode.
Hell yeah. So it's good to see you again.
It's good to see you. I was wondering why you were here, and I thought, oh wait, we're recording finally.
Finally, I know. We had to do a lot of new things, right? Like this beautiful new studio we're in.
Absolutely.
We should address that right off the bat, I guess.
We're in a new studio.
We're in a new studio. It took us some time to move and get everything completely like
Not to mention there's
whatever.
also a pandemic happening.
Right, yeah. But this is good. This is our new home, right?
It's our new home, at least for the next, I don't know, couple years, or until I get tired of you. Whichever comes first.
With that being said, is there
that
anything
being
else
said, we're doing something different today.
Oh, okay. What are we doing today?
We are doing not 1, not 2, but 3 motherfucking movies.
3.
Should I stop cursing this year?
No.
No. 3 movies. We, a listener, Nicole, I hope I was okay to use her name. I'm sure it's fine.
Did she give you a tag or something? Was it a Twitter something or other? A handle?
No.
Instagram?
She just said, hey, do this. You guys are boring otherwise.
Okay. All right.
Nicole.
I could always beep out the last name or something like that.
Do that.
Yeah.
Nicole Blank reached out to us and suggested the Carrie movies.
The Carrie movies.
Yeah. So there's Carrie, 1976, directed by Brian De Palma.
I love him because he did Scarface. And I know he did Carrie as well, which I've seen before. I didn't know that he did it when I saw it, though. So it was different watching it this time now.
Yeah, different context. Yeah. And then The Rage, Carrie 2, which came out in 1999, the 90th of all movies that we've seen in the past, I don't know, couple of years. And then the remake Carrie from 2013 starring Hit Girl.
Hit Girl, right.
Hit Girl.
Yeah. So, and then I think there's a 4th like TV made for TV thing or something like that.
Yeah, we're not counting that one because
too much. Yeah.
I didn't want to pay for yet another movie that I had to rent for a while.
I mean, I heard somewhere that one is probably closer to the actual book, the Stephen King book, if you're going for that, like, true to the book context of it.
I guess I didn't read that, but I also didn't read the book. And I really wanted to get the book and figure out what the differences were. But in doing my small little bit of research for Carrie, the original Carrie, I found that it was the preferred ending to the writer, who it was written by
Stephen King.
Stephen King, yeah.
So you're saying he liked the ending of the movie.
The movie
more
ending versus the book ending.
The book ending. Okay.
So I'm thinking, I don't have to read the book.
Well, nice. I'm not much of a book reader. I'm into the movies.
You know what a book is.
I know what a book is. I've read a few, but I don't know. I'm visual, so
yeah.
I guess I like the movie aspect of it more.
I mean, it counts it because we have subtitles during movies for me. So you read the book movie.
Oh, right. Technically,
you read the movie.
So we're doing Carrie 2, which is really called The Rage.
And The Rage, Carrie
2. And we're doing the remake.
Remake, yeah.
Okay.
Which I'm not usually a big fan of remakes. I actually like this movie, the remake.
Yeah, I have to say it's the same with me. I think that if you're going for I wanted to hate it more than I did, but I guess it also, really fell in line with the original in some ways. They obviously had to modernize a few things, but overall it was, I guess, really true to the original movie, including like using some of the same dialogue, I would say.
Well, I think some of the dialogue is crucial because it just sets the tone. Like when the mom says, after the blood, the boys come like sniffing dogs.
Yeah. So what was that? The lady that plays Margaret White.
Yeah.
Right.
So Carrie is a teenage girl who, up until a certain point, was homeschooled by her super, super, super devout and religious mother, Margaret White, who is played by Piper Laurie in the original. And she's very much bullied in school for being super weird. And then she goes through some changes in her life, and she tries to embrace quote normal culture and goes off to prom, but bitches be tripping, so somebody played a prank on her, and then she naturally decides to slaughter
She
them.
discovers her telekinesis abilities and decides to take her revenge out on all these
Right.
people that she didn't connect with. It's a crazy, plot, I would say.
It's not, though, because people live that regularly. Like, people live being bullied. Like, I didn't come from a super religious household, but I came from a very conservative household. Like, I tell you all the time, I grew up in a dry house. I didn't start drinking until my mid to late 20s. And even then, it was like for a short period. And, I caught up. But the thing is, people don't understand that you are in your circumstances. They just see that you're different. And then they start picking on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, there's obviously a lot that people can relate to from the regular, like you said, school life, being picked on, bullied, all that kind of stuff. The telekinesis part of it is sort of like the supernatural element.
Yeah, but that's also the thing that you really want. Like, as a child, I mean, I guess my first horror movie was my first horror movie was Drew Barrymore in Firestarter, and she can set fires with pyrokinesis.
As a kid, you're saying like you wanted to have superpowers,
and I always wanted to have superpowers. And then I remember Out of This World with Evie, and I really wanted to be like, oh, I can stop time, I can do this. And then X-Men, which is like, please, that's like the love of my life. X-Men. I was like, I want to have mutant powers. I wanted to do all of those things. But if you really get down to it, the most helpful and useful superpower would be telekinesis.
Moving shit with your mind.
Or telekinephews, because equality.
Okay. I got you there. Yeah, I guess I think when I was young, there was a time where like I really wanted to be Wolverine, and like I tried to just make a fist and just summon some sort of power.
Protrude?
Yeah, to have blades come out. And then what I did is took butter knives and taped them to my hand and ran around.
Very safe. Sounds really very much boy in the 80s.
Yeah. So, are we gonna? Do you want to talk about all three of them together as one?
Well, I mean, maybe we can just go through them.
Yeah, because I was just going to say it's also worth pointing out that Julianne Moore was the mom in the remake, which was...
Well, we'll get to the remake if that's fine.
Sure, yeah.
You're good with that?
Yeah.
All right, but yeah, and I love Julianne Moore for different reasons.
Gotcha.
She's hot. Okay, so... Carrie, from 1976, based on a novel by the same name, written by Stephen King.
Right.
Okay. Stars Sissy Spacek, just Carrie. I don't know her from anything else other than Carrie.
Right. I was going to ask that too. Like, everybody's like, oh, yeah, it's Sissy Spacek. But
because you just know it's Sissy Spacek, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. But was she known from something before Carrie? Was she like a child star or something that was like, oh yeah, she was in this sitcom or something, and then she did this movie? Or
I don't know, but they did what every other She's Not Beautiful movie does. They got somebody who's actually really beautiful and naturally beautiful.
Who? Sissy Spacek?
Yeah.
Yeah, she kind of looked...
She was
alienish sometimes.
Okay, but that might be just the makeup and the fact that they made her, wear these outfits that made her long and...
I don't know. I just think her face sometimes she looks like a space alien.
Maybe because they didn't do her makeup for camera, and then she looks like she has no eyebrows.
Yeah, there's something up with her face. I don't know.
It's because we're used to seeing, TV beautiful, right? And so all they did was they didn't make her up. And in fact, Sissy Spacek mentioned, I think in something I read, that she wasn't even washing her hair in order to have it be that stringy and nasty. All of the things that would have been done to any woman on TV wasn't done to her. So she didn't pop look the normal standard of the standard of beauty. She didn't
Right.
adhere to it. So
Well, they were also wanting to make the contrast between her and the other schoolgirls, which were
right.
supposedly quote unquote normal, and
Yeah, and you definitely see them a lot more in the remake than you do in the original.
the other friends and
The
other
no,
girls.
the contrasts.
Oh, the
The
contrast.
contrast.
Yeah.
They try to develop the characters a little bit more.
Hmm.
Um, but in the original, so the movie starts like this.
Right. It starts with a bloody mess.
Right, but also boobs, and more
Yeah.
boobs.
Right. A lot
So,
of.
which is a little unsettling because they're these teenage girls in high school and they're supposed to be teenage girls. And I think they were all like in their 20s, but
Right. I mean, we know in order to make the movie for legal purposes, we know they were all of age, but essentially they're playing high school girls, and
actually, Hit Girl in the remake was not over 18,
well, she didn't get
which is
fully
why she didn't get nude.
right.
Yeah.
Well, either way, they were in this original one. Yes, that's where they start off with. I'm saying the concept of it is at the time because we grew up through those ages. So I guess if anything, it was the age we were when we were young, going into puberty and things like that. Looking back at it now as an adult, you have to think like,
You're like,
okay, well, yeah,
"Ee."
but it's portraying, I guess, art in a sense, and you have to look at it like that. We're going into a period of period,
A
no
period.
pun intended,
Zing.
of someone's life, but when they go through some crazy changes and all that, and they're just capturing that moment.
Yeah. Yeah, well, so if you can imagine somebody going through a huge, like, I don't know, guys go through their own thing, but women go through their own thing too. As I was a little girl and I got my period a lot younger. You're getting uncomfortable, but
I,
women bleed from their
no, I know. I
orifices.
just found this out while watching this movie.
I'm
This is
calling
the
your
first time
mother.
I ever knew
I'm
this.
calling social services.
Like,
Women, so I got my period in like the worst place ever. For the first time ever, I was 9 years old.
that's when you first
That's
got
when I
it?
first got my period.
Really?
And my mother had taken my brother and I to Catalina Islands,
Wait, is
meaning
that big?
it's that big island off the
What's
coast. And you take a boat across.
yeah.
And then what we did is we stayed there. We stayed there overnight one night. And
Was this just like a vacation trip?
just a
type
weekend
thing?
trip.
Yeah.
Just a weekend trip. And I was wearing white shorts. And I kept feeling not great. But, we went to the bathroom. I'm like, oh my God, I got my period.
But did you even know what a period was at that time?
Yes, because I went to public school. Also, we lived in a one-bedroom apartment for a very long time. Growing up, we lived in a one-bedroom apartment. There were 10 of us. You learn things when you're in such confined quarters.
I guess. I think
So-
in some of my upbringings or people that I've known in my family, it's all they're the Indian part of it anyways. Their subculture, they're very like private people.
Well,
They just
I think no, I don't. So my problem is that when my family immigrated to the United States, assimilation took away a lot of our culture, but also because of I guess, the poverty level where we were, made us have to adapt in certain ways. And so 10 people in a one-bedroom apartment, one-bedroom, like, little house, you weren't going to get any privacy.
yeah.
But I remember getting my period, telling my mother I'm on my period, and her telling me, it's just dirt. Don't worry about it.
It's just dirt.
And then continue to walk around the island for the rest of the day in white shorts with no pad or anything.
Well,
And that's how I got my first period.
so you already knew what a period was. At 9 years old, you were already aware that, okay, this is something that women go through on a monthly basis, and it's going to happen to me at some point. So now it happens, and you're looking to your mom for like some sort of like advice, like, what do we do here?
I'm just saying I can relate to Carrie.
Yeah, I can see. I can see. I mean, essentially, your mom was like, just deal with it.
Deal with it, ho.
But that's also nasty because now
also
you're walking
didn't
around with a
tell
kid
me.
with blood on themselves.
Well, you don't gush. Like, okay, normally you don't gush like Carrie did. I know it looked like a murder scene. I mean, okay, generally speaking, you get about 4 tablespoons worth of period blood.
Okay, we're probably not going to want to continue the details of this segment just so for sake of keeping our listeners. Just
You are such a dude.
let's just go ahead and move on and say, yeah, she got her period. And
You know, women poop too, right? So anyway, I can relate is what I'm saying. And I can understand how scared she must have been to just suddenly be bleeding. So she's in the locker room. She's showering in the locker room and she starts her period. She doesn't know what to do. So she goes out looking for help.
Right.
Instead, she gets these asshole ass girls who start throwing tampons at her, telling her to plug it up.
Yeah.
And that's so traumatic.
Yeah, it's a crazy scene because she thinks she's dying or something.
Yeah, and they're
they're
throwing shit at her.
literally throwing shit at her and laughing. And so, do you remember I want to just like kind of bounce a little bit around with both of them, but in the remake, the lady who plays the coach or whatever you want to call it, she slaps the shit out of her and she's in the water scene, you know, like she's like to wake her up. She's like, fucking snap out of it, whap, and slaps her in the face. Did that happen in the? I don't think that happened.
I don't think that happened in the. I don't remember. Honestly,
I don't remember
I
either.
watched these 3 movies back to back, and I'm kind of.
Yeah, I don't think it did.
I'm on a period overload.
But yeah, I was because I thought that was kind of funny that she just slapped the hell out of her to wake her
So
up
it was the
out of it.
70s. Schools were a lot different back then.
Oh, you know what? I just remembered something.
Yes.
There was a slap in the original one, but it wasn't to Carrie, and it wasn't it was still the coach, but it was to the other girl who
To the bully.
Yeah, the bully.
Yeah.
She does
Chris.
Yeah,
I think her
yeah,
name
yeah.
is Chris. So here's the other thing. I went to 3 different middle schools in 2 years. Not in any of those middle schools, nor in my high school, did anybody take a shower in the locker
Yeah, I
room.
know, me too. I don't know. I mean, other than like probably the football, basketball teams or like, you know, the sports teams that schools have, like I don't ever remember anybody using a shower during any course of PE class.
I remember there were
ever.
showers there.
Yeah, of
And
course.
we would use it to, well, not we because I was weird, but the other girls would use it to wet their hair. So it had that moist look for when you didn't want it crunchy.
Right. Okay. See, what I can remember is that you had a little bit of time to get back in, change, and then get to your next class. Like we didn't have shit ton of time. So what I remember is they would end PE. You'd get, I don't know, enough time to go back to the locker room, change, put on some deodorant, you know, and then grab your shit and just go. And then you're,
Yeah.
you know.
I can guarantee you my kids don't shower at school.
Yeah, it's just a weird thing. I've never known it to be popular in our culture, like in our time frame of our culture, I'm saying, because it must have been the way they did it in the earlier days. That's why they have all the showers. And again, this is a 76, so they're like, this is still something that people do. They shower at school.
Josie's in here?
Probably. But you get what I'm saying? Like in their time, it must have still been relevant for people to be showering.
Because there were still showers there. They just didn't use them.
Right. I know.
That said, even when we were changing, I mean, it's an awkward stage in your life, and some of you, some are developing, some are not, some are confident, some are not. So, dude, that's when you learn the magic of putting on clothes without taking off all of your other clothes. You know, you take off your shirt and then you kind of loop one through the other, so you don't have to be shirtless. Yeah. You know, same with pants. Like you change your shirt first so that the long shirt goes on, and then you can put your pants on.
This is the part of the movie where it's basically just a boy's fantasy where we want to assume that
fantasize, Stefan?
We want to assume that all the girls are walking around topless and naked and they're just having a good time throwing like clothes at each other and shit like that.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you I've had a lot of fun with women in similar scenarios where you're just not clothed and having fun. But it wasn't when I was a child, and it definitely wasn't when I was in school.
I know, right? It's just, again, like,
but
it's.
I mean, it doesn't distract from it. It really.
It puts people in the seats. I guess.
It automatically captures you because you're like, whoa, chicks, blood. Wait, there's more chicks. Yeah. I kind of understand that, but nevertheless.
Well. Okay, one thing I wanted to quickly mention while we're talking about this scene in the original, like this is like an epic, like I don't know, it's a movie moment where there's music playing. Like Brian De Palma made it like
It was an opening for sure.
Yeah, it was like, it wasn't just like bam, bam, we're into this movie. There's this whole like long musical score playing, and it's slow mo and this and that, and like she's dropping the, whatever.
The
This,
whatever, the what?
I think she drops the soap. At least I don't know. I can't remember entirely. But the water's all in slow mo, and it's one of those things where I guess like that's
It's
the filmmaking
an
part of
experience.
it.
It's definitely a really good opening, and it does capture you, and you're like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
So yeah, so actually that is the opening scene. It's Carrie is in a locker room with all these other women all these other girls, teenagers that are naked.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking about
Butt naked.
Bush makes an appearance.
Yeah.
And multiple times. There's a lot of Bush cameos here. Gavin Rossdale everywhere, all over the place.
Couple of I wanted to say H. Herbert Walker's in there.
Herbert Walker.
Herbert Walker Bush, isn't that
Oh, I guess
that's Papa
so.
Bush.
That's Papa Bush. I mean, the timing probably would be better because he's old, or he was old. He was at that age, right?
I don't know.
Anyway, so we'll cut that joke.
Whatever. I thought it was funny. You didn't get it. Yeah, it went over your head. But
So I'm like, what are you saying to me
Herbert
right
Walker's.
now? You know why? Because I'm thinking of the other movie we were watching the other night.
The Orphan?
No, with the reanimator guy.
Oh, Castle Freak.
Yeah, Castle Freak. And I'm like, Herbert. And I immediately think Herbert because he was in Reanimator as Herbert.
Oh, was that his name? Herbert?
Yeah, I thought so.
No, I don't know.
Anyway,
I can't remember
Carrie
now.
is in the shower and she gets her period. The girls make fun of her when she's just trying to get help. The PE teacher comes over and kind of tries to diffuse the situation, sends the girls away, and takes Carrie and kind of takes care of her a little bit.
Yeah.
Then we are introduced to the principal, who is a fantastic douchebag. He won't say her name right. Her name is Cassie. In his mind, her name's actually Carrie.
Right.
He refuses to even mention the word period. It's natural, anything. Anytime they are trying to talk about it, he dismisses it and says, "Get that out of my office."
Yeah, he reminded me
of afraid of a woman having natural biological things come up.
He reminded me of the town mayor who's like up for election and doesn't want to get like in the hot seat for anything.
Oh, the principal?
Yeah.
The principal is like the mayor in Jaws.
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. Like that. Yeah. Yep. That's what I got out of it.
So eventually they say, well, that's where we learn that they can't do anything about it because of the religious upbringing. Carrie's.
Right.
So they're not
and we
able
also
to. And that makes sense because of the fact that when you're in school in 5th grade or whatever, you have to get a parent's note to allow you to be able to go in and watch the video where you learn about your period and you learn about contraceptives and you learn about body changing and stuff. So if her religious upbringing didn't allow her mother to sign that slip, they're not allowed to say anything.
Right. And that's where I think in this that's the first time you're getting in this movie anyways, that idea that she has this religious mother.
Right.
Because we haven't met the mother yet.
Right.
But they do say, "Oh, didn't your mom tell you about this or something like that?"
Yeah, and obviously no.
Right.
So Carrie gets home. We're introduced to the mother, Margaret White, who is this amazingly poofied haired, like super religious, like you can see her coming and to you and saying, "You're going straight to hell unless you give me $10."
I don't know about. I do feel like she's the lady on the block who like went and told my mom that I was throwing rocks in their pool.
Were you?
Yeah.
Well, you're an asshole. Why were you doing that?
Because she was that lady in the neighborhood, so all the kids would do it.
Don't you see that she has a daughter that has telekinesis and she's just trying to save you?
You can tell definitely she's got that demeanor to her.
Well, so here's what we find out about. Okay, so Carrie's mom is overbearing. She doesn't want to. She thinks that it's Carrie's fault that she got her period, meaning she sinned, and that was the period was brought on because she was having lustful thoughts.
Yeah. So do you think the mom is psycho at this time
I
just by
think
meeting her?
I think the mom is part of a super fundamentalist group, and she's been brainwashed, much like many cult members,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And I think she's scared because you're talking about the 70s. There were two things that happened in the 70s, aside from serial killers, that were significant. It was the second wave of feminism and
Okay.
women coming into their own power and demanding that we be treated not better, not worse, but equally.
Okay.
And there were a lot of struggles because men were having a hard time having to legally recognize women as equals. So there was that happening, but also the 70s was there was a significant rise in Christian fundamentalism. And that is like the strictly devout, like very, very religious, like almost cult like, following the Bible literally, like by the book.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of those thoughts were coming up, and so it was. I think I wrote it down.
It's funny while you were saying that, I was thinking nowadays we just go, "Oh, Grandpa."
I don't say that because I watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre way too many times. I wrote down it said, okay, yeah, so 1976 specifically was called the year of the evangelical
Oh,
because
really?
it was happening so significantly.
And that was the year of this movie was
Yeah,
made.
so we're talking about those same dynamics as women coming into their power. The church, I don't care who gets mad at me, the church is always going to try to subdue the power of women. And that duality and that conflict affects people greatly in this time frame.
Mm-hmm.
You see a lot of serial killers. You see, Mommy Dearest, and you see Carrie's mom.
Yeah,
People struggling with, I know that I can do this. I know that I deserve being treated equally, but how do I reconcile that with what my church says, that I basically am just here to serve a man, right? So all of those things would lead to Carrie's mom, who obviously already has some of those cult-like tendencies, and I'll get to that in a second, along with that inner turmoil and the fact that she kind of has had a rough kind of life since becoming a single mother,
Mm-hmm.
let's say.
Yeah.
So we find that Carrie's mom locks her in
the closet.
In the closet.
That to me.
And let me tell you, somebody who was in the closet for a very long time, that sucks.
That feels like it's fucked up. Like it's when that happens, like, and she gets put in there and locked and the lights turned off and everything. It just feels like some sort of like it's torture.
It's not a consequence, it's punishment.
Yeah, it's fucked up. Like for any parent to do that to their child, that's like a little like
that's abusive.
Up. Yeah.
I get if you want to be religious. I get if you want to follow somebody else's rules and you want somebody else to tell you how you should be. Fine, do what you want, but don't ruin and break your children.
Yeah. Now, with that being said, I don't have kids, and there's quite a few of them that I'd like to put in a closet.
My kids?
Nah,
because my kids will fuck you up.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, there's a bunch of kids out there in general that are just deserve a fucking little bit of closet time.
Since the move, we no longer have the murder kids around, so that's lovely. Right. But those murder kids needed some closet time. No, I'm just kidding. Don't put your fucking kids in a closet. What was the movie yesterday? Pass the fucking potatoes.
Pass the fucking potatoes. Yeah.
But there's if you're gonna try to get your children to be religious, fine, whatever. Don't do it in an abusive manner. I don't use religion as punishment. I think a big reason, aside from I don't want to be part of a religion that throws people away when they don't agree with you. Like when I came out and my family was like, no, I that's when I was like, I don't want to be part of a religion who's going to not want me as part of their religion because they don't agree with me.
Right, sure.
This is just natural to me. But before all of that, I used to ditch 6th period to be able to go to work early because I've always been a workaholic.
I know. That sounds so crazy to me. Like who and how and what. But I mean, I guess different. Where I was at, nobody could ditch school to go work early if you were like, how old?
16.
16, yeah. That wasn't happening. So we might have ditched school, but we weren't going to work, and we couldn't have worked by. I mean, you probably could have got
Well,
an under the
I
table
forged
job
my mom's
somewhere.
signature on the work permit, so I started working. And she
Okay.
knew I started working because I told her I forged it after I got the
I
job.
guess it's been long enough that, or
Yeah,
allegedly, you
I
did these
allegedly,
things.
all of this is allegedly. But she, so I got caught because I didn't have a backup plan, and now I know backup plan, right?
Oh,
I didn't have a backup plan, and so I got caught, and then I was given detention
Oh, wait. You were given detention from school
from school for ditching
for
sixth period, for leaving sixth period to go to work.
Okay, right. Because work just said, "Oh, well, you're fired."
Right, but I mean, that was a place where
What job was this?
I used to make smoothies.
Oh, this was the aerobics
Yeah,
place?
yeah.
Wow. So that's funny.
I used to make smoothies. I used to wear a little hat and a little apron. I used to be like, "Hi, would you like an immune booster?"
16 At 16 years old.
Yeah, but you know
What?
what? 6 months later, I was managing my own store.
But wait a minute. Couldn't you work there if you were 16, or you had to have parents'
I had a
permission?
work permit.
Right.
Anyway,
Either way, you're starting work before school's over.
right. So in my high school, we got out of school at 1:50. And
Really? Wow.
yeah, because we had block scheduling. Some people got out earlier. Some people didn't go to school on certain days because
Actually, I
they
think
didn't
we
have all
got
those
it.
classes.
Yeah.
So I would, I
think we
want,
were- and I'm just trying to remember. I think we got out at the same time, around that 2 o'clock. Makes sense. Sorry. Go
so
ahead.
I wanted to start work at 2. I got off at 1:50, and it really was just up the street. But because the school's campus was so vast, and having to walk all the way over there, 10 minutes wasn't going to cut it. So I would be like, I gotta go to the bathroom, for example, and leave like at 1:30 kind of thing, and then just not come back.
What?
Because I was like, I need to get this bread.
That little half an hour, you were just like, I'm out of here.
I'd go get my shit from my locker, and I'd walk to work, and then I'd clock in, be no problem. And then after that, I had to tell my boss, can you schedule me for starting at 2:15? And he was fine with it. But what was my point? Circle back. Okay, so so the school punished me and gave me detention. And that was the first time I ever got detention. But the my mom punished me by, one, threatening to send me to an all-girls boarding school in Honduras. One, we're not from Honduras. Two, okay, sounds fun, right? Because, gay. And then because the gayness. And then she also instead she punished me by sending me to church every Friday with my godfather.
That
as
sounds
a
pretty gay.
punishment. As a punishment. And if you punish your children with something that you want them to really accept in their hearts, you're not going to say, I punish you, I'm going to give you carrots. They're not going to fucking want carrots. Same thing with religion. If you want your children to love the things that you're into, shed positive light on them. Don't be like, you're trouble, you got to go to church now. So Carrie's mom saying, you were having lustful thoughts, you sinned, you have to go and pray for forgiveness. Like, that's a punishment. That's not a consequence. A consequence is, if I tell my son, look, you had your dessert after lunch, you can't have it after dinner. That's a consequence, right? A plus B equals C.
Yeah.
A punishment is when you are not letting them see that there is that distinction and that their decision led to it. You know what I mean? It's decision based. So that is fucked up. Fuck that woman.
Yeah, right.
We did find out. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
We found out a little bit earlier that we forgot to mention that we first see her ability to move things with her mind when that guy, the douchebag principal, kept calling her Cassie or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Then she's like, it's Carrie or some shit. And she flips the ashtray over, which I thought was funny because that means they were still smoking in school.
Well, yes, they were.
Yeah, I know. Was he smoking before that? I think he was. I think he did have a cigarette. Yeah. But either way, the ashtray goes flying, and that's when everybody's kind of like, whoa.
Like, whoa, what happened?
Yeah.
Yeah, in the remake, she explodes like a water bottle,
right?
Like a glass water bottle,
which is sort of bullshit because those always are like, the water bottles are usually those 5-gallon jugs that are plastic.
Usually, but there are a lot of glass
fancy ones. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I guess.
Well, the idea is that the plastic is dangerous for you because it sits in the plastic bottles for so long. The glass is a little bit better because
Sure.
it doesn't. So that's the idea behind it.
Sure. Everything's a give or take.
Yeah. I mean, it's very hard. We do find out that Carrie's mom conceived, so Carrie was conceived through marital rape.
Well, this is the difference between the remake and the original. In the original, they never say she was raped. They basically say
Yes, they did. They say almost word for word in the original and on the remake. They say,
Really?
yes. She says that they had sex that one time and then they swore never to do it again. And then they lay there perfectly happy for years without having to sin. And then one night he came home, like Carrie's dad came home smelling like Roadhouse whiskey, specifically Roadhouse whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
And she saw that the way that he looked at her, it was going to be bad. So they sat and they prayed. But then he took it and put it in her.
Okay.
But then she says,
I liked
and then
it.
I liked it.
Right. She says that in both the...
In both, yeah.
Okay, right, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So it didn't start off consensual, is what I'm saying. But we find out, and then she shares this with Carrie at the movie at some point. I think it's when she's going to prom or she's going back from prom. Oh, when she comes back from the prom. But it's definitely one of those, holy shit, like, how can you be in bed with somebody for years and not want to have intimate contact with them?
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's probably like the majority of married America right now.
Well, right now it's a little different because of quarantine.
Right now, or even before quarantine. I mean, that's just a lot of people. That's what they say. You get married and the fucking
stops.
Yeah, the fucking stops, fizzles and dies out.
Yeah, I guess so. But she does tell Carrie one thing. She's and that's what I was alluding to earlier, was after the blood, the boys come, sniffing like dogs, grinning and slobbering, trying to find out where that smell is. And that's gross.
That's gross, yeah.
But that's how she is. She's part of the as part of this sect in Christianity that believes in the what is it? The curse of Eve.
Oh, right.
Right.
Yeah.
She believe in the curse of Eve, and she says that Ralph is carried away by the devil, but he actually left for another woman, which we get to a little bit in the Rage 2.
So he left for
her for another woman. Now here's the thing, that curse of Eve is not referenced in the Bible at all. It is something that I think was written in not the Divine Comedy, but the other one. What was it?
I don't know.
It was this all classical book that I think it was it Chaucer? Like how they talk about the original sins or the deadly sins and mortal sins or whatever, like those kind of. Okay, so the Canterbury Tales, maybe, I don't remember, but they do reference it there, and that's where it's from. It's not actually in the Bible. It's just one of those, oh, we hate women in our society, so let me write about hating women and how women fucked up the world kind of places. So that's what they subscribe to. But even then, the translation actually is that pain, what the curse of Eve is, the pain, meaning the pain, the periods or whatever that she refers to, is actually meaning childbirth, is referring to childbirth, and the child, and that pain actually means sorrow. And the sorrow is just, you give birth to your children and then they grow and they leave, as opposed to the physical pain of giving birth, which is a sumbitch.
The thing that I remembered in the remake is that the mom, Julianne Moore, she was like also like, I don't know what the right word is, masochistic or whatever. She would like poke herself with the sewing needle cutters or whatever, and she seemed to inflict pain on herself.
In the remake, yeah.
Yeah, which is, I think that's another. I don't understand any of that because I don't feel that way, but apparently, there's some people, like you see somebody in like the Christianity, whatever, like a pope or somebody like whipping themselves.
Self-flagellation?
Yeah.
So you see that in, what's that Dan Brown book? The Da Vinci Code?
Oh, right, yeah. That guy straps that thing around his leg.
The Solis or whatever?
It's just weird. I don't understand that, but yeah. So,
Yeah,
but the
yeah.
mom in the remake, why I brought that up is because I do remember her specifically like trying to hold back and poke herself, or she seemed to be self-inflicting, on pain on herself. And I don't think they did that in the original so
I
much.
think in the original there was a point where she kept hitting herself and she says, "Don't
Oh,
hurt yourself."
yes, there is
But
that.
it
Yeah.
wasn't, but because in the original it didn't follow the mom
Hmm.
and the remake did,
Yeah.
maybe we just didn't get to see that.
Sure. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. So in the book, Carrie goes back, I mean, the book, in the movie, Carrie goes back to school and she has to deal with harassment again. At this point, the PE teacher who is wanting to care for Carrie, also punishes the girls that were throwing tampons and pads at her.
Yeah.
And she punishes them by having them do like
All this extra
all this extra
workouts. Yeah.
exercise, right?
Like burpees and shit like that, or
Right. And she
whatever.
says, if you do not complete these, you're not going to be able to go to prom.
Right.
And she kind of guilt trips them. And good, because she's like, what do you think poor Carrie would have felt? And the girls are just, they're like, fuck, okay, we fucked up. Let's take this punishment. I want to still go to prom. Meanwhile, Chris, who is the
lead bully.
The lead bully.
Yeah.
So there's two that really are the most, the ones that are the focus. One is Chris, who's the lead bully, and then the other one is Sue
right,
Snell.
Sue Snell, right? Yeah.
And she's the one that began throwing the tampons at Carrie, but
she
started to feel bad because she
Yeah.
started to feel guilty about it.
Right. She has a change of heart and she wants to try
Yeah.
to make up for it, which really her way of making up for it doesn't seem to really be the right way to do it.
It's kind of prostitution.
Yeah.
But so Chris will not do the exercise, and she's like, if we all stick together, she can't keep us all from going to prom.
There was a part of me
that's when the teacher slapped her.
Right. That's when the teacher slapped the shit out of her. And I thought that was funny because I was like, oh, damn, you can't get away with that nowadays. But also, I was going to say something. Shit, I lost it.
You were going to tell me about your thoughts on having them do extra exercises for detention.
Oh, yeah. No, the not extra exercise. The one thing that Chris, I think, says is like, why should I have to be whatever for just because this idiot didn't know that she got her period? It's like, part of me was kind of like, she's not wrong. Like, fucking.
But she's not right. You don't have to.
Sure, she bullied. She
fuck
did
up somebody's life.
I know. Yeah, I get it. But it's also like, I don't
know. Throw tampons at people.
Well, there is, I think, a big change now in the way people are. I think we've evolved a little bit more to be a little bit more civilized, I guess is what I'm saying, because I don't know, we're not in school anymore, but I feel like that there's maybe a slight shift with your kids and the generation under.
My kids are just awesome.
I don't know. It's just I think that we were fucking bad, and the people before our parents were bad, our grandparents were bad, it's just
so I was bullied. But then after a while, I told you, right? Like, I was called a wetback and didn't care, so nobody bullied me anymore.
Yeah.
And for the most part, I'm sure, like, people not made fun of me, but they commented on certain things because I very much dressed like a boy most of my high school years, except for what year was it that ODB's last album came out? Because that's when I wore my first pair of girl pants.
I don't remember the years back then.
But so like in the 90s, like late 90s, like I think maybe 98 or 99 or something like that. Okay. Or my first pair of girl pants. People make fun of you for the stupidest fucking shit.
Sure. I can tell you're very passionate about this.
Yeah, because I was very upset.
Yeah. I could tell. You're like still holding on to it. Like,
well, that part was it was very hurtful. Yeah. Because even in approaching other people when I was a kid, it was I always felt that sadness for them. I always felt like I have to be that person's friend. There was a time that people thought I was a slut because I saw that somebody was like by themselves and I felt bad for them. So I'd go and I'd be friends with them and I'd feel bad and I'd make my friends come and be friends with them too. And then
like a random loser that was like hanging out by themselves.
Yeah, because people like it was very, very like cliquey.
Cliquey, I was
going
to say.
And so I was like, well, why? I would feel bad for people. In fact, there was this one guy who had a lot of friends, but everybody talked shit about him because he was poor also. And so we used to have him come to the house all the time. He had Thanksgiving with us sometimes. And it was because I honestly, I didn't even like him as a person. I felt bad for him.
Well, I don't know. That's a different part of you that, I mean, it's some part of you that's different than me because I don't know. I've never randomly invite some person that I felt bad for to Thanksgiving. I guess that's the meaning of it. That's what you should do, but not everybody's out there doing that. At least I'm not. And
Well, I felt bad, and
I don't know. Maybe I should. Maybe this coming Thanksgiving, I'll invite a random stranger over. But
no, I knew this person from school. It wasn't a
I
stranger.
don't know.
But
Yeah, I got you. But it's
my
nice of you.
point
That's really
is,
nice of you.
my point is, I knew what it felt like. So I didn't want other people to feel that way. In fact, I was in a relationship because I felt bad saying no to somebody.
That's
I'll
you
tell you
shouldn't
that
do that
story
though.
at some point.
Yeah, you shouldn't do
It's
that
actually a
though.
crazy story full of mystery, death, and deceit. It was really scary and sad. And it's a true story. It's fucked up, really. It's a really fucked up story.
Are you gonna tell it now?
No.
Okay, all right. Well,
I think I have to work my way up to that
we'll
one.
circle back to that
But
then.
but what I'm saying is people make fun of you for fucked up shit and you have control over
Yeah,
it.
I
But
was made
just
fun of in school
because,
all the time.
yeah,
Yeah, I was because I was
I have these.
I didn't fit in with any real clique, and I also was like late to bloom, I guess you could say. So I didn't hit my growth spurt for a while. So I looked like a middle school kid in high school, and people just that was easy target. I was like the small, tiny guy, like at the same point I was trying to try out for the basketball team and I had these big dreams of being like something larger than life and they all just went and failed, one by one. And it was just hard to like stand up, you know. Like some people develop what they call small man's disease, short people's complex, whatever. I wasn't confrontational like that. I just was more introverted and an artist, I guess. So I just kind of like moved away from
Yeah.
it all. But there was a part of like first 2 years of high school for sure where and even the last 2 years because I was still like late. I was more rebellious the last 2 years and ready to fucking do some bad shit just because I had all this anger built up from it.
Mm.
But the first 2 years I just felt like I was being like everybody thought I was like a really super smart, nerdy, like middle school kid that was like leaving middle school because he was in high school. And
Oh,
yeah, like you know what I mean?
that's interesting.
And like none of the girls like looked at me in a way where they were attracted to me because all I looked like was like
A
the
little
little
kid.
kid like and they would give me the oh he's so cute look he's like a little kid or whatever but like it wasn't like I could get with the ladies
That's
back
so
then.
cute.
It was fucked up. It was
Yeah,
like
I'm glad you couldn't get with the ladies, so you say, because that's criminal.
I mean, it was just one of those things where mentally eats on you, especially at that
Yeah.
age. You're trying to be like, you're seeing everybody else like growing up and being, growing into their skin, and you're like, you can't do anything about it because, you just still look like you're this tiny little kid, in that time especially, you know how it is like people are wanting to get out of like you don't there's it's okay when you're in like elementary school and you're like oh girls cooties right but as soon
Mm,
as you hit high school and you're like ew girls everybody's like what the fuck is wrong with you and especially then they'd be like oh what are you gay and then that's
mm-hmm.
not even cool at that time so because you obviously went through that and know what that's like but I'm just saying it's tough because you're still feeling the effects of it even though you can't do anything about it and you just
Yeah.
have to like move on with it. So yeah, getting bullied sucks. It's not a cool thing and hopefully you know um
My daughter was bullied. My son probably is too, but um he's not able to comprehend that he is or is being bullied.
sure
Or there's a girl that likes him and he thinks she's bullying him, but really
that's
she
his
just
version
likes
of
him.
bullying. Yeah,
Yeah. But my daughter was bullied in middle school by this girl who was her best friend at one point, but then Isabel got a boyfriend and the other girl didn't.
yeah, but
So it's a lot of jealousy. And
yeah.
actually, in Carrie, in the remake, we find out that Chris is really just super. Well, I'll get to it in a second, but she's just super jealous of Carrie. So I find that happens a lot. There's picking on somebody because they're different, but then also picking on somebody because there's jealousy.
Right, yeah.
Um, just move forward. Carrie has to deal with that. Sue decides I fucked up. Let me be nicer to her. Kind of like I did that once. Um, you know that guy that I told him to take a shower that I mentioned in
Oh,
previous
right.
episodes?
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
actually became my friend.
Yeah, she basically says, "You know what? I got to make up for this. This is
Yeah.
bad. I understand." And so she's trying to figure out what she can do that will be good.
Yeah.
Which,
So she decides to pimp out her boyfriend.
right, yeah, which and see, I don't even really get, like, I understand, like, okay, for the night, for the moment, she's gonna have a prom date. But the thing is, I feel like that, and I can't remember. Maybe it was the original, maybe it was the remake. There was part of it where I definitely felt like it wasn't that clear. Like she was still kind of looking at him like, "Hey, maybe like where do you
I
think this
don't
is going?"
I don't think that, and I think that just might be the male female dynamics, right? I don't
You think
feel
that she'd be
that.
okay with just one good like Cinderella night, and
I
then she
think
goes,
so because I have had experiences where guys think that you're into them just because you're polite. Same thing. I think she was just so okay. So let's rewind a little bit. Sue asks her boyfriend Tommy to take Carrie to prom. Even though the same PE teacher tries to get involved and say, hey, don't fuck with her, they're
"Yeah,
like, I promise, we're not fucking with her. So Tommy decides he's going to take Carrie to prom. It's decided they're going to prom.
hmm
Um, and at first she's super hesitant and she's like, stop trying to pick on me. What the fuck, bro? Um, and all of this is happening at the same time she's discovering and building on her telekinetic
telekinetics, yeah."
powers.
She's been doing some research in the library,
Yeah, and
and
that's where Tommy finds her.
yeah.
And
Uh,
so he like even goes to her house and says, I am not leaving until you tell me yes. So he forces his way into a date.
yeah,
She says yes because her mom is at home and
yeah.
she's like, you need to get the I'll say yes, go.
There was
Leave.
a little bit of a difference between the remake and the original in this part that I remembered.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in the original, Tommy shows up to the door and she answers it and is like, "What the hell are you doing here?"
Mm-hmm.
And her mom's already inside. In the remake, she's walking home from school
Mm-hmm.
and Tommy's outside the house.
Right.
And then she's talking to him in the front yard. And then there's a car or two or three that drive by. And I think one of them is supposed to be implied that that could have been the mother's car, but maybe not. I don't know because she
I
didn't
didn't get
stop.
that. But I do feel like Carrie she's not stupid. She's very much aware. She even mentions you're with Sue.
Hmm.
She's like, yeah, but she doesn't want to go to prom, is what he says.
Right.
So I think that she understands that it's a one night thing. Let's just have a good night, you know. And although I do feel like maybe Tommy had some feelings kind of developing as far as maybe a friendship, but definitely it was a prom. So Carrie, having accepted the date for the prom, decides that she's going. She gets excited about it. She tells her mother. Her mother says no.
Nope.
She's like, no, bitch.
You are
This is the
not
way it
going.
is. This is what boys do. This is the problem. And she tells her she can't go. Carrie's like, bitch, I'm telekinetic. Watch me do this.
Hmm.
And she makes her own dress. And then she gets excited. She goes to prom.
Yeah, she makes her own
Meanwhile,
dress.
Chris. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say she makes her own dress in both the original and the remake, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those. Well, we know a little bit more in the remake that the mom is like some sort of a seamstress
Yeah.
and does repairs and stuff, or
Mhm.
alters clothing at a store or dry cleaner or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But there is something in the first one too where you get this. There's a lot of like sewing machines
Yeah.
around the house and whatever. So, and she's obviously a homebody, so she must obviously know how to. But I thought it was funny that in both cases the dresses were very
Revealing.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not a problem, but I'm saying coming from you could see that they're wanting to rebel and be a little different than what they're,
Right. But the funny thing is that when she has like she covers up like neck to feet. And so being a girl that has been super covered up and then suddenly wearing girl clothes, you're very uncomfortable.
yeah.
You're very uncomfortable. Even though you may have that confidence, you still feel like you're missing something, that cover up.
Sure.
And albeit she does have a shawl that she uses, I don't see how from one day of being dressed like a Quaker and then the next day being dressed like a disco queen, how that would happen without it being super uncomfortable.
Oh, sure, of course. Yeah,
Right.
she's never done that before. She's
Right.
never walked
So,
around like
but
that.
at the same time, while all of this is happening, Chris, who is dating John Travolta.
Oh, right. Yeah. I mean, that's so funny when we get these big time actors in these older horror movies. But yeah, John Travolta, and he's a scumbag in this movie. He is. He's like,
Wait, but Chris is the evil one out of the
of
both of them
course, of
in this movie,
course.
in this version.
Yeah.
She's the more evil one. She's the one that's really being like the villain.
Of course. Yeah.
And John Travolta's character, I don't know his name. We'll call him John Travolta.
No, it's Billy something.
Loomis?
No, Billy something, I think.
Billy something.
Yeah.
So John Travolta, he's like, he is a scumbag. Ugh, he looks like he smells bad too. Smells like cigarettes and
Don't
beer,
call me
but like
stupid.
pee.
He slaps her in the face and shit.
Yeah. And she definitely uses Chris definitely uses sex to get him to do what she wants, because he maybe is a little bit dumb, and he falls into having to do whatever she says, and she knows that she has that power over him.
Yeah.
Because believe it or not, some women do use sex as power, and that's okay.
They have this like
They
cool,
happen to
like,
do that.
car scene when we meet John Travolta, where he's driving the cool muscle car. It's like a cruising scene where they're going down the street, and then you got the one car pulls up and it's like full of chicks, and then the other car pulls up. No, the first car that pulls up is like his buddies, and they're like,
going to the
let's
party.
go." Yeah, and then he's like, no, I can't
And
go.
he's like, throw me a beer.
Throw me a beer, yeah. And next thing you know, he's got the beer in his hand. Then the car full of chicks pulls up, and he's like, woohoo, and drinking his beer. And then right behind them, it's the cops, and he's like, oh shit, and he like tosses the beer down or whatever.
Yeah, well, that's why she calls him stupid.
Yeah, and he's, fuck you, I told you not to call me that.
They decide that they're going to get revenge on Carrie.
Oh, right. Well, she decides. They sort of are like, well, I don't know, whatever.
He does whatever she says.
Yeah.
So she decides she wants to get revenge on Carrie. They decide to go into a slaughterhouse.
Yeah.
And drain a pig of its blood and put that on the stage.
Yes.
To soak Carrie in, because you're going to fix it so that she wins prom queen, since Chris can't go to prom anymore.
Yeah. This is funny because the idea of getting pig's blood at a pig's farm, again, in 1976, and I don't know, wherever this movie was taking place in, probably seemed like a little
if it's Stephen King, wouldn't it have been Maine?
Oh, right. I don't know if this was in Maine, but it just seems like something that, that's probably where you'd get your blood, like I don't know how many seniors or whatever nowadays would be like, let's go get, like, only ones out in the boondocks.
In Florida.
Yeah, probably some Floridians, yeah. But it just seems like, oh, let's go kill some pigs and get their blood. In the remake, I think they touched on that a little bit by making the guy eventually like not have the balls to do it the first time around.
Well, so
like one of the friends.
But the same thing happened. Like, so a bunch of them went to go kill a pig and get its blood.
Oh wait, so right, because Travolta's the one who did it, right?
It was in a vat of blood. They had to kill a pig.
Right.
And in the original, Travolta had to do it.
Okay, but then
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I'm trying to compare the two, and I when I was watching the remake, I kept thinking like, oh, that was a little bit of a similarity or a difference, and I thought for some reason the guy didn't punk out as much in the original as he did in the remake.
Right.
In the remake, he really was like, oh, I can't do it, but I forgot. Anyways, it doesn't matter. The point is, they kill a pig, they get its blood, and they're taking this back to the prom to set up to hide the canister so they can pull off this prank.
Right. So they fix it so that Carrie and Tommy win prom king and queen.
Right.
Right. So, but again, Carrie's mom doesn't want her to go. So before leaving the house, Carrie has to lock her mom in the closet.
This is another thing I can remember this part clearly. In the remake, she locks her in the closet.
Oh,
In
so
the
does she
original,
not?
she does not. In the
Oh, you're
original,
right.
here I remember exactly how it plays out. In the
She just
original,
tells her to sit
she
there.
yeah, sit down or something, and she pushes her down on the bed or whatever, and then she does it a second time, and she's like, "No, stay there," and she goes
Until
out
I
and
leave.
yeah,
Yeah.
until I leave, and then she goes out and meets Tom. What's his name? Tommy.
Tommy.
Yeah. So in the remake, she gets, and then I had a little issue with this scene, and I'll tell you why here in a second. In the remake, she gets really physical with her mom and lifts her in the air and puts her mom in the closet.
That's what it is.
And
Yeah.
she like uses her mind to slam her in the closet, slams the door closed, closes the latch, but then
Welds
she
it.
turns into an
Pyrokinetic. She becomes Drew Barrymore in Firestarter.
But that's what I'm saying. That's like a whole. That's what because
Well, there's a
telekinesis
lot
is
of
moving
things.
shit with your mind.
Yeah, but so in the remake, there are a lot more than telekinetic powers that she has because she messes with electricity. She does
What?
Pyrokinesis.
But
and so she does all those things. So you're right. There's definitely
they
something
upgraded
else.
her in the remake a little bit.
She leveled up a little bit.
Because I was like, wait a minute, now she's able to heat up metal and whatever. But anyways, so the mom gets locked in the closet.
One could argue, similarly to, I don't know if you've seen The Last Airbender, the series.
No.
There is one character named Toph, and she's an earthbender, meaning tough, like tough. But tough, and she's blind, so she only does things with hearing and her other senses. But anyway, she can move earth, right? But she discovers that metal is composed of a bunch of different earth elements, so she's able to become a metal bender.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
So maybe there's something like that. Anyway, it's one of the best animated series, one of the best animated series ever. So they get to prom.
Right.
They're having a lovely time.
Mm-hmm.
You can feel the happiness coming out of her.
Yeah.
Like Sissy Spacek did a really good job with Carrie. You can feel like her heart getting bigger, and you feel all warm and fuzzies because you know something's fucked up's gonna happen. You know what's gonna happen. You still feel happy for her though because she's dancing, she's having fun. Tommy is being super respectful.
Yeah, he is.
She's being a gentleman, and I'm like, that is refreshing like a motherfucker, right?
Yeah.
Sue is at home, and she's, just happy that things are happening there for her. Sue decides at one point she's going to go and sneak in just to check things out, and that's when everybody is there. They're announcing prom king and queen, and Carrie and Tommy get called. They go up to the stage. Sue has snuck into the auditorium to watch the coronation, and she sees that there's this rope being tugged.
Yeah. And
it is Chris and John Travolta under the stage holding the rope ready to pull it to dump the blood on Carrie.
Right. What I was going to say is this movie, it gives you this everything. Like there's nothing that's surprising us yet because we're aware of everything. It's not like who's the murderer kind of thing.
It's not
what
yellow.
I mean? Right. So so in other words, we don't know what the surprise factor is yet because we're like, okay, this movie's been completely transparent the whole time. We know that they're under the stage. We know that the pig blood's there. Like we know that she doesn't know, but like, you know what I mean? And we know that Sue is like, we know everything. But what we don't know is what's going to happen in the yes, unless obviously you've seen it before. But my point is that's where when you're watching the movie the first time, I think that's what's the blow away factor is that final scene. Like you're like, whoa, what the fuck just happened here?
So Chris pulls the cord.
Yes.
The blood topples onto Carrie.
Yes.
The bucket falls and hits Tommy on the head and he gets knocked out.
He gets knocked out. I think he even dies.
Yeah. Carrie, then, because her mother said in her mind, one of the last things that she told her was,
they're all going to laugh at you. They're all going to laugh at you.
You do that voice so well.
You know what? So, okay. There's the very first time I ever heard Adam Sandler's tape, it was called "They're All Gonna Laugh at You," and he had a whole thing on that.
I wonder if he got his period.
I don't know. I'm like, because when I heard it this time, I was like, oh, this is from Carrie. So Adam Sandler probably was taking a little bit of a note to Carrie in his comedy sketch cassette from album, whatever you want to call it. But in my head, I always knew that they're all going to laugh at you from Adam Sandler. And when I watched Carrie this time and I heard that, I was like, oh shit, that's the thing. And so, yes, I can do, they're all going to laugh at you pretty good.
Well, Carrie, so because of that, and kind of like self-fulfilling prophecies, like I say this enough times, therefore this is going to happen. They all laughed at her, but only in her mind, because she saw people kind of like, oh my gosh, and then she automatically thought that everybody was laughing at her. I don't think everybody was laughing at her.
She not only thought that they were laughing at her, she also even thought that she was set up by Tommy and Sue. Like, she believed that the whole world was against her.
The teacher, everybody, yeah.
Everybody.
So she said, fuck this shit. And she goes scorched earth on the motherfuckers. She sets the gym or the auditorium like ablaze, like everything on fire, things thrown at people, everybody just gets killed.
So here's where we go back into the superpowers. In the first movie, they do stick to just a true telekinesis, because the fires start because her first initial move is to, after closing all the doors, is to get the fire hose and blowing people away with a fire hose, which is a very high pressure water. But there's also a point where the lights start crashing down and the water and the lights together create the fire. So she doesn't actually start fires.
Right.
But I think in the remake, there's
a few things happening.
Yeah, I don't know if she starts I forgot now, but there definitely is like a few little upgraded skills she's got in the remake.
So Carrie essentially kills everybody.
Fucking everybody. She's like,
everybody.
No remorse.
Except for Sue, because the teacher saw Sue was there and she thought, oh, she's going to fuck with her. I do like the idea of fire being a thing there, because it's uncontrollable and it's just uncontrollable, much like a woman, right?
Yeah.
So
for sure.
So Carrie is like, holy shit. Chris and John Travolta managed to escape. Sue has escaped because the teacher threw her out thinking she was going to fuck with Carrie.
Yeah, that's where we left off on, actually, was with Sue.
Okay, great. So those three people for sure made it out.
Sure.
Carrie is like, fuck these fools, and she leaves. She's walking home. Chris and John Travolta see her, and they're like, and Chris is like, I'm going to run her over. Yeah,
so go ahead and let walk us through this scene, because I have some stuff I want to comment on.
All right. So in this scene, Carrie is walking home, and Chris sees her walking home. Meanwhile, with what's his face? John Travolta in the passenger side.
Yeah.
Of his best friend's bride. Anyway, she sees her and she's like, I'm going to run this bitch over. And she's like actively like gunning for her. Carrie, all she does is turn, and the car flips over, does this amazing kind of Steve McQueen kind of roll, and then bursts into flames.
Right. Yeah.
Because everything catches on fire.
Right.
And then Carrie proceeds to continue on her way home.
Right.
Now, that's how we left it. We assumed that they died in the explosion.
Chris and John Travolta. Yeah.
So then Carrie gets home. She cannot find her mother. So she bathes. Who the fuck takes a bath to get rid of pig's blood? You'd shower that shit away, unless they didn't have a shower. So I guess that's fine.
Yeah. I don't understand why people take baths in the first place.
But showers are good, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah, because the water goes off your body and down the drain. So a bath, you're just sitting in your filth for as long as you.
Always taught shower, and then you can take a bath.
All right. Well, that sounds luxurious. I mean, if you're taking it, I remember when you take a bath as a kid, you're just taking a bath.
Yeah, and your water's all dirty.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense.
But you have bubbles.
It was fun at a time, but I don't know. I very much understood that you're sitting in your own filth after a while.
Yeah. So I have like this germophobia thing, which everybody's aware right now.
Everybody's a germaphobe now.
But there's a reason why I have a legit issue.
You were one step ahead, huh?
I'm the hipster of germaphobes. But it was because my stepdad, who just called, used to take care of us when we were little because
I would hope so, right?
like he
No?
would like be our main caregiver on the weekends,
Oh,
right?
oh,
Because my mom would work 2 jobs.
okay.
So,
I mean, if he was stepping up to be
he
your stepdad, he's very, hopefully he was taking care of you, I guess, right?
so so he I remember I used to have long hair down to my butt, like really long hair, and he used to hate it because he used to when I used to have to take a bath, he used to have to detangle my hair. But that's when I first started my germophobia because he would say, "Look at all this disgusting that's in your hair," because just natural hair, right? Um, but
Yeah, disgusting shit in your natural hair.
yeah, daily grime from being a kid in the 80s,
I guess so.
rolling around in the dirt.
I don't know. I didn't have long hair as a child. I grew my hair
Oh,
out long as an adult, and
well,
I've taken
just
care of it.
every day you get natural oils in your anyway. So he would say, "Look at the dirt that comes out of your hair," because he's nice now, but and that's where I was like, "Oh my God, things are dirty," like so it comes from childhood.
Yeah. So, I want you to go back because I still want to circle back to the whole car scene again eventually after we talk.
Well, tell me what you want to say because I already
Oh,
went
well,
through the car scene.
right, I know. So when we were talking about that, I wanted to compare it to the remake, which I thought there was there was some ups and downs in both endings, I thought, which are essentially the same ending in the remake and the original. The one thing with the car in the original was they just sort of like went right into it. It almost seemed like a little bit of like I ran out of time and we got to jump into this ending.
So the remake was actually different in that when Chris and Billy, I guess, because not John Travolta in the remake. So when Chris and Billy escape, they're boxed in because Sue has parked there to get a glimpse because she received a text message um, from Chris saying, "Oh, she's whatever, something like Carrie's going down or something like that." In the remake, which is why I want to talk about the remake different separately because there's a lot of things in the remake, but because Sue has blocked them in, they have to kind of like Austin Powers their way out of that
Sure.
parking spot. And then they see Carrie in the remake going home, and Billy actually is the psychopath, and he's like, "I'm gonna run her over." And he goes to run her over, and then she stops it, and has it swerve into no, and she stops it. And Billy smashes his face in kind of death proof style. And then what's her name is still alive. Chris is still alive. She then goes into the driver's seat, goes to run her over, and Carrie then makes them swerve into a gas station.
Yeah.
And that's when she dies.
Right, yeah. But the little setup part that I noticed that was different in the two was that Carrie goes and follows them in the remake, whereas in the original, they just sort of cut to a scene where Chris and John Travolta are driving along, and then they happen to see Carrie in front of them as if she was already going home.
Well, I don't remember the distinction of those two. I
Yeah.
didn't really care for their demise scene.
Well, the reason why I'm bringing it up and why I'm saying is because in the remake, she's like, "I'm not done with you guys yet." And she's still in revenge mode and she wants to go get them because she knows that they were a part of it. In the original, she's sort of left the school already and is not necessarily following them because they come up from behind
Right.
her. You see what I'm saying? Whereas in the
I
remake,
understand.
she even does this whole thing in the remake where she's a bomb and like splits the fucking ground and it follows their car as they're trying to drive away and it like earthquakes underneath their car to stop them so she can catch up or whatever. I don't know. I'm just saying that there was difference in the original to the remake because the original there was more like, oh, we are coming up behind her and we can actually run her over and finish her off now. And you're right. She just does this little creepy like turn and they're like boom 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 boom, so it was very quick after that. It was very like, whereas the other scene in the remake was a lot more drawn out and
Right.
almost like she's still on her getting her revenge.
And I have thoughts on that. I think it's because the original Carrie was less about I'm going to get revenge, and it was more about I have to protect myself. Versus the remake is very, very vengeful.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So Carrie makes it back to her.
Yeah.
She bathes. She gets ready. Her mom comes to her to console her.
Mhm.
Carrie's like, they all laughed at me, Mama, and the
Mhm.
mom's like, let's pray.
Yeah.
They go to pray. The mom stabs her.
Mhm.
Carrie falls down the stairs.
Yeah.
And then the mom comes downstairs and tries to kill Carrie.
Yeah.
And Carrie, what she does is she like gets the knives from the kitchen and scissors and such,
Yeah.
and like kind of crucifies her mom in
Right.
the same exact way, and um as her Jesus statue in her closet. But not only that, she stabs her in all the same places where the Jesus statue is um is stabbed, and the head is kind of over exactly with the frizzy hair. The mom looked exactly like the Jesus
Jesus thing.
figurine
Yeah.
in the closet.
Yeah.
Then
Now you knew something was gonna happen when the mom was gonna like stab her, because in both movies, there was this cool little like scene where like you see her in the background, like where she's like,
hide like
"Mama,"
Michael
yeah,
Myers hiding.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, like, "Mama, where are you?" And you, I thought that
Right.
was really good,
That
especially the
was
Julianne
good.
Moore one. She was just like walked in the
She's
back real
so
quick.
creepy. I love her so
Yeah.
much. But after that scene, in the original, the house starts caving in. And I attributed that to her own guilt in killing her mom. So she's like, I'm just going to disappear. Right. So the house caves in. We assume that Carrie and her mom are dead. Um, we come
There's
to
one difference real quick in the two here. In the original, that's exactly what happens, and we'll go talk about the other one after you finish this. But Sue comes back during that scene in the remake and witnesses
right.
the house and everything. But
Right. And there's a whole thing, which is why I didn't mention it. There's a whole bunch of stuff that goes along
right,
with that.
yeah, okay.
But
So this one, the house collapses in on them.
yeah.
And I'm sorry, you go ahead.
Go ahead.
It's more of the house collapses. There's like things full of rocks or something, almost look like they're falling through the ceiling. It collapses in on them, and then that's sort of it. And then they go to like a funeral scene, I think, afterwards, right?
Yeah, so then everybody, there's mass funeral because everybody died. And then Sue is the only one that has survived this entire thing. And so she is having, psychological issues, and she's at home with her parents, and the parents are going to take her away because according to this movie, the doctors have told the parents that Sue is young enough to have forgotten all of this. So
Yeah,
she'll
such
be
bullshit.
okay. Such bullshit. But all of this is being said while Sue is walking towards the house where the hole where Carrie's house was, where it's a for sale sign, and it says Carrie White burns in hell, and has an arrow pointing down.
Yeah.
And
it almost looks like a cross too. It's a for sale sign, but it's like,
and Sue's putting flowers there, and then this hand comes up and grabs her. End of the movie,
which I thought was good. I didn't expect that. Yeah, and to me that was like, yeah, this is like the like the end of Nightmare on Elm Street when Freddy pops out the window or whatever. Like it was something that I didn't expect it, although I should have probably, and I just thought it was cool. It was a cool ending. Now in the remake, they obviously didn't do the same thing, and they have a little bit of a twist on that scene there as well.
Right.
Too.
So and there are a few differences between the original and the remake. Of course, it's set in a different time.
Yeah.
In the remake, Chris's character is like overly tanned, very fake, very plastic, and she's jealous of Carrie's natural beauty because she's played by fucking Hit Girl, who's gorgeous. Even without makeup on, she still has flawless skin. She has flowing, beautiful hair. She's slender. All the stereotypical.
I got lost in the
right?
remake's modernness because I was like, it was such a typical 2000, like, I remember saying it reminded me of like American Pie, because the American Pie, the guy who banged Stifler's mom is in it.
Oh, that's true.
And there was just a lot of that like early 2000, like high school movie, like gimmicks and stuff like that.
Right, but this is from 2013. And so.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just got the rage. I just went into the rage.
But here's the thing. So there's a lot of things, of course, to set in modern times. That not only did they throw tampons at Carrie in the remake, they also videotaped it and then shared it with everybody. In the remake.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
She does it. That's where, the Chris girl. Yeah, she gets in trouble because she had evidence on her phone, and she didn't want to show her phone in
Right.
that one scene. Yeah.
Chris's dad is an attorney, so the whole
Mhm.
part of trying to get her back into the prom came into the dad trying to kind of be a heavy hitter and say you're going to put her back in the prom.
Yeah.
Didn't fall for it because she had the evidence on her
Right.
phone. So in the remake also there's still the whole pimping out your boyfriend thing. But you kind of get the sense that he actually likes her a little
Um,
bit more. Um,
I don't know if it's they do that thing where it's like the typical high school love story movie where he at first he might not really like she's all that, you know, that's what it is.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I did have a trouble with the 2013 version versus the 76. The 76, yeah, sure, she wasn't like gorgeous, like all dolled up all the time, but she was very much still a normal girl. Whereas in the remake, she was hit girl. Like
Yeah, well,
she was beautiful, even dressed down.
that's true.
So
Maybe they should have picked somebody who wasn't as, you know,
pretty.
camera friendly or whatever.
But so there was that. There was the Billy, the Chris's boyfriend. He was the one that was a little bit more psychotic. He was the one that had a little bit more of the issues and the aggression because he's the one that forces Chris to kill the pig and says you're going to do this, and he was a little bit more aggressive.
Right, yeah, he kind of was more of an influence on her to unleash her inner demons or whatever.
Right. And then in the original it was a religious background. In the remake it's she was homeschooled up until the city or until the state got involved.
Hmm.
Um then another thing, there was a teacher that was a creep.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
in the remake.
In the remake.
Total
So
creep.
here's the thing, there's a
It's
teacher
like, "What's up,
there's
my little girl?"
yeah.
It's gross. He was at prom too. He was probably just fucking loving it. It's fucked up. Okay, go on. Like, I'm not trying to glorify him. He's a fucking pedophile.
So in the remake, the scene where Carrie has to read her favorite poem. She reads this poem. See, did I write that poem down? She reads a
Oh,
poem which is actually the story of Samson
okay.
and Delilah. Not Samson and Delilah, but just Samson, and then how he goes and he gets his strength back, and he is a martyr or whatever. And so she in this one, Tommy actually comments on how it's a good poem, and doesn't
Yeah,
like that the teacher is picking on Carrie
sure.
because he is from the just glances he's sleeping with one of those twins,
Yeah.
right? Which is why when they're at the prom, that teacher goes and tries to protect one of the twins,
Right.
right? So there's that part there.
Now,
Um,
do you remember in the original that it wasn't her who read a poem, and it was
yeah, it was the other way around.
it was the other way
Yeah,
around, right?
another way around because Tommy read a poem and she
Mhm.
goes, "It's
It's
beautiful."
beautiful,
Right.
right?
Also, there's a lot more sex in this movie because it's 2013 versus 1976. They're in the scene where Sue and Tommy are talking about Tommy taking Carrie to the prom. They have just finished having sex in his
Yeah.
Jeep.
More sex, but less tits, if you can believe that.
Well, yes, because Hit Girl was underage.
No, I know. I'm saying like they obviously implied that everybody was fucking, but they didn't have the gratuitous nudity as
Well,
the
so
76 one
this
did.
scene was in the 76 one, but it didn't make it to the final cut.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Um, in this movie, what I found was it was Sue trying to really show that she was a good person because she was, yeah, pimping out her boyfriend, but Chris made a good point in saying you only want that to happen so that you
So, right.
look like the good person,
Yeah.
right? And that's why she gives up the whole prom date
Yeah.
because she's like, you just are doing or saying you're sorry or whatever, feeling sad for Carrie because you want to make sure that you go to prom and have your perfect prom thing happening. And that's when she gives all of that up. She's like, nope, just
Yeah.
take her to prom. And kind of like, I think it was more of a let me prove it to myself.
I felt like that was another reason when I talked about Chris's point of view earlier, not being so off. I feel like she makes a valid point there too, that Sue is no angel either. She's really doing it only for her own benefit
Mm-hmm.
and to try to clear her guilty conscience, but it
Yeah.
doesn't make it any different. So anyways, yeah, the Chris girl is obviously super bitch and she's a bully, but that's also, she's going through her own shit in life, and
Yeah.
I don't know if she's not the greatest person at all, but I don't know if she's entirely wrong in certain scenarios either.
Who?
Never mind. Chris is wrong, but
Chris is
she's
wrong
not
because
entirely like she's, I don't
she's
know.
a kid.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, you don't give children the ability to make all of their decisions on their own because they're still not developed enough to be able to understand all of the consequences. Should she have gotten killed the fuck up? No. Should she have had more parental supervision and possibly treatment for some undiagnosed depression? Yes.
But okay, but what I'm saying, let's pretend that prom went over without a problem and there was no
Mm-hmm.
pig's blood and no murder. So does that go ahead and make Sue like, you're off the hook, everything's cool, honky dory, like, because that's the thing. It's like in Sue's head, she
All of
did
that was for
this.
Sue. None of that.
Right,
So,
exactly.
you know how
That's what I'm saying. It really doesn't make up for it. Like, it's not going to clear Sue from what she did, even though she thinks it is
so
going to.
when let's say this. When you step on my foot and I say ow that hurts, you say I'm sorry. That sorry is more for you than it is for me because the words I'm sorry are not going to make my foot feel better. It's going to be for you
For
so
me
that
to,
you understand that I understand that it wasn't on purpose. Right?
right.
Okay,
Yeah.
same thing here.
Right.
All of this
Okay.
was for Sue
That's
to
what I mean. Right.
get her conscience clear. All that was going to do was going, if it had all gone well, all that was going to do was have Carrie have a good night and then possibly be teased the next day for her dress.
Yeah.
Or possibly be teased for, oh, by the way, you guys were on the ballot. That's stupid because you guys didn't even win. Because if you remember, they won because
it was
they
rigged.
cheated.
Yeah.
So
they trumped that shit.
They trumped that shit.
I don't know if that works or not, but
they wouldn't have become king and queen. They probably would have gone to that after party because she mentions, okay,
right,
we'll go.
but, yeah.
And something probably would have happened there.
I wonder what would have happened at the after party.
Have you seen the movie Teeth? So then there's a lot of other things. Also, in this movie, Sue sees that Carrie is doing all of these things. She goes to the house. She sees that Carrie is...
You're talking about the remake
in the
now.
remake, yeah.
Yeah.
And we see that Sue sees that Carrie kills her mom.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, Sue comes and sees all that. She sees the house go under.
The only reason why Sue makes it out alive is because Carrie was reaching out to do something to her, but also felt that there was life inside of her because Sue is knocked up.
Pregnant. This isn't
with a girl.
The second one you're talking about.
Yeah, in the remake.
Right, yeah.
And so she kicks her out of the house. She picks her up and moves her out of the house. And the house falls in on itself.
Right. Well, it doesn't just fall in on itself. It's like sucks down into the earth. It's like, I forgot it's like black holes itself. It's like...
Right. And then what was in the book that wasn't shown in either of the movies, any one of the movies, all 3 different movies, even including the TV one, in the book, apparently, Carrie goes outside after the pig's blood, and from outside is fucking with everybody through the windows, as opposed to staying on stage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't seem to add or take away any little bit.
I'm just saying. So yeah, this pregnancy is it's a little bit crazy because it's well, why'd you put that in there?
Oh, well, no, yeah. Wait, why did they put that in there? I was gonna say maybe it tied into Carrie too, because that Sue Snell, she reprises her role, or whatever the actress's name was. She reprises the role of Sue Snell, and then they explain a little bit of the connection between the girl Sarah, whatever her name is.
So I'm wondering if the reason for her being pregnant versus Carrie bleeding is that Carrie bleeding, right, is starting her journey while Sue is entering a new stage in her life, which is probably why she made the quote responsible decision to skip prom.
Sure.
You know, she's maturing, she's entering this new stage.
Sure.
Right? But I don't know. I loved the original. It's classic. It's amazing. There's only, you can't get better than perfection. Like, I loved it. The remake was good. It was good. I liked elements of it. I loved the fuck out of Julianne Moore. She is creepy as shit. You believe her as a fucking sadistic mother who will fucking kill you the fuck up if you fuck up, right?
Yeah, yeah.
She sells it. She's it. You're scared of Julianne Moore. It is a good movie.
I liked both of them, but I did feel like that there was some parts of I don't know, there was just something about, there were parts of the remake and the ending where I was like, oh, that hits a little bit, makes more sense. And there was parts in the original that I thought also maybe made a little bit more sense. So I was kind of back and forth between the two.
My favorite part of the remake definitely is Julianne Moore.
Yeah, she's great in it.
They're
for
both
sure.
good movies. Unlike The Rage Carrie 2.
Right. Well, real quick, the one thing I did not think I liked as much in the remake was the whole the prom death scene, because I felt like they went a little over the top with the CGI. Like, because again, now she's like got these, extra fiery powers, whatever you call it.
So telekinesis is another word for psychokinesis. And that actually means soul movement. So I feel if she was telekinetic, she would use her ability to move people, because if it's soul movement, why can't she do like blood bending?
I don't know.
You haven't seen Avatar.
No. I don't know. There was part of me that I felt like the original, it was great. There was nothing wrong with it. And the remake, I was like, no, they've gone a little bit. Like, I didn't hate the remake. I actually really liked it. But I also felt like that in that particular scene, they were like, we're going to push it a little extra. Like, and
she can tell that somebody's pregnant. She can move. She can work with fire. She can work with water. She can work with earth, wind, fire, water, heart, go planet. So
in those final moments of the remake, it kind of lost me a little bit, whereas they had me the whole rest of the movie.
Yeah, I totally get it.
Anyways, and then The Rage Carrie 2.
So The Rage Carrie 2
is not a good movie, but we watched it anyways. And
so it's from 1999.
Yeah.
And it was actually Stephen King's working title for the movie Carrie. And this movie really reminded me of the 90s.
It was so 90s.
My high school years, and I feel the crunchy hair.
It brought back a lot of memories for me. It did feel like it took me right back into that time. And in that way, maybe as a movie, it did a good job. But I didn't think it was a great movie at all. It was a little lackluster.
It's okay. So it's from 1999.
Mm-hmm.
The Rage was actually Stephen King's working title when he was writing Carrie. It stars Emily Bergel as Rachel and Amy Irving Sue. It's the same Sue that was in the original Carrie from 1976.
So one could say that it's almost like a continuation on her end of the story.
Yeah. So
because she's the final girl.
Yeah.
Like, Carrie is dead for all we know, right?
Yeah.
So the point is, Sue is the final girl, and part 2 essentially is Sue's part 2. It's like she's really should be the main character. The other girl, Sarah, she
Rachel?
is Rachel, whatever her name is.
Where'd you get Sarah from? We haven't said Sarah this whole
I don't know.
Who the fuck is Sarah?
The point I'm trying to make is that it seems like it could have been Sue's movie. Yeah, yeah. So,
okay, I like that.
So she's she's in the movie. It's something that where she works in the school now, I guess, right? And has had these, for all these years has held on to this like thing that happened that people have moved on from, but she hasn't.
So Sue is Sue Snell. However many 20 years later or something, she is now a guidance counselor at the high school.
That's what I was trying to say.
She had previously spent some time in Arkham Asylum,
Mm-hmm.
which is, as you know, the asylum from H.P.
Batman.
Lovecraft series and Batman.
Yeah, I think it's more H.P. Lovecraft than Batman, but maybe that's where Batman got it from.
So, we're introduced to Rachel as a kid, and looks like she was about to be sacrificed by her mom to get rid of these telekinetic powers she has, to get her away from the devil.
I didn't like the opening of that scene. It was stupid. She's like painting red paint on. She slaps the girl in the face with red paint. Like, I really didn't understand it. I thought it was kind of whatever. And I got where they went with it when they were spinning around. We didn't talk about the spinning around scene in the original Carrie, which I did think that was like a stupid scene from Brian De Palma to shoot this dizzying scene, dancing around and around and around and around and spinning and spinning and never stopping and never stopping. I was like, what are you doing here, Brian? Like, stop the fucking camera movement.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really think a lot about it. It just was one of those things. They're dancing, so they're supposed to be kind of twirling. But also, I took it as they're in their own world now, and there's nothing else outside of them. You know what I mean? Because Carrie was finally in a good place. She was feeling good. Therefore, things were, just only them, and nothing else in the world was static.
It was going on and on and on. I was getting dizzy watching them fucking spin around.
So the rage opens with this little girl. Her name is Rachel, and her mom is having a mental breakdown, and she is trying to exorcise the demons from Rachel, because Rachel is telekinetic.
Okay.
So the police come. They take her off to Arkham.
The mom. Yeah.
Rachel goes into foster care.
Sure.
And that's where we catch up with her, and she's in high school now. So I guess 10 years later or whatever.
Sure. Yeah. She wakes up in the next morning and she goes down. She had the dog sleeping in her bed, and she wakes up and her foster parents are there. They're getting ready for schoolwork and doing the whole regular routine life.
Right. So we find out that she is in foster care. We find out that they're hopeful that the mom would get better, but the foster dad is like, but then where would he get an extra $300 a month?
Oh, wait, she's paying to live there?
When you're in foster care, the state pays the foster parents. They don't do it for free.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really? That takes away like a whole nother level. It's just like a cash.
Yeah, that's why there's
then.
So much abuse in foster
Really?
case children.
I didn't know that.
There are some people who will take on as many as they can because each child is a monthly paycheck.
That's fucking crazy. I never knew that. I mean, that's crazy because he's just looking at it like she's a fucking $300 paycheck now.
Right. Which in 99 was some money.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
My rent was $300 in 2000, in the year 2000.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's the thing. We find out that she has one friend. Yeah. And this one friend, they have matching tattoos. So I'm a product of the 90s. If you look at my tattoo, it's a stupid tribal, like most people got in the 90s. That's why this cover-up is over it. But, that's just stupid shit we did. Rachel and her best friend are no different. They have this little heart covered in thorns, each on the same place, and it's their like blood oath to each other.
Yeah.
We find out that her friend, was it Laura?
It's Mina Savari, and she probably was also troubled because she was sleeping with Kevin Spacey. Just kidding.
I mean, that'll do it.
Yeah, I
mean, there's a whole support group for people who are with Kevin Spacey. So we find out that she has finally had sex, and she's going to bring the boy to lunch, right?
Yes.
We get to their school, and there's typical 90s high school. Baggy jeans, greasy and or crunchy hair, chokers and jelly shoes, and all this fucking 90s nonsense. Bell-bottom hip huggers and all that bit.
Yeah, I was taken right back. I was like, oh shit.
No!
Is that why you wore the choker tonight? Bring you back to the 90s?
Maybe.
Looks good on you.
It looks like I'm decapitate here.
Yeah. I was really taken back. I did think that part of it did well. Like it, but that's just because it was like
because it was filmed then.
Right, yeah. Well, true. Yeah, it was filmed then.
Yeah.
Man, we were
But
crazy back then.
yeah,
Weren't
it was so stupid. Like the things that we did as kids are just so dumb. Like I don't know. Okay, so anyway, we get to the school and we're introduced to the popular crowd and the non-popular crowd, and so here's the thing. There's this group of boys. They all take not bets. They all keep score
Yeah.
of the girls that they
They're
have
the
sex with.
jocks.
They're the jocks. They
Yeah.
play on the
the lacrosse team or something like that.
Football team.
I don't remember.
Football team?
Was it lacrosse
Football.
or
Let's say football because I don't remember.
Okay. I do remember lacrosse for some reason now, but
I don't know. So here's the thing. They keep score. Every time you have sex with somebody, they're points.
yes,
right?
yes.
Now, at this point, we find out that there's this one guy, the oldest brother from Home Improvement.
Yeah, at this point we find out that fucking the oldest brother from Home Improvement
is a fucking psychopath.
Oh, we already knew that he was going to be that way, but he's totally playing into it though.
Yeah. So, but at this point, in the beginning though, I think it was different. In the beginning, it was he actually liked this girl, and so when she walked by with Rachel. He said, "What do you think about that girl?" And they're like, "Oh, she's a dog or whatever." So then he's like, "Oh shit." We find out later that he must have already told her, "Hey, I can't see you anymore." And she goes up to the roof, throws herself off, and she dies.
Right. Yeah.
She commits suicide.
She does a whole
and
splat on top of a car windshield or something.
Right.
Like that.
And so then Rachel is then, of course, upset. She's also finding that she has telekinetic powers. Oh, one thing in the original Carrie and the remake Carrie, Carrie's actually cultivating and growing her powers. So that might be why she has it.
Okay, yeah.
That'd be why she has those extra powers. Anyway, so back to the rage. The whole thing is, we know that she killed herself because of this guy. And this guy and their scorekeeping. Mm-hmm. And then we also know that Rachel has these powers that she's also coming into. She's had them since she was a child. She just maybe didn't use them because of her circumstances. Mm-hmm. She don't want to be crazy like her mom. So the story is mostly she's all that. Right?
You mean the story?
With a twist?
Yeah.
It's this one of the jocks actually likes Rachel, wants to be her boyfriend. The pretty popular girl doesn't want that to happen. So she's like sabotaging Rachel. The guy's actually falling in love with Rachel, and Rachel is still very standoffish, and she's like, I don't know if this is right or whatever. Meanwhile, there's this whole, how do I say this? This is so
I don't know.
much.
This movie is harder to talk about now because it wasn't that good.
Well, so here's the thing. Because Rachel saw a picture, because she worked as a photo developer booth, of her friend with this jock, home improvement guy, she knows that he's the reason why she killed herself.
Right. Yeah. She knows.
So the police Sue is encouraging the police to prosecute them because statutory rape laws, because he was over 18. And so there's this whole subplot of the jocks getting in trouble for that, right?
Yes, there is.
The reason why the other jocks are fucking with Rachel is because Rachel has the evidence against them, and she doesn't, and she is going to, make sure that he's held accountable, and they're like, don't fuck with our bro, man.
Right.
Because there's a football scout or whatever coming to the game of the season, and you're fucking with his future, right?
Yeah.
So that's why they're fucking with her, not knowing that the friend is falling in love with her. They videotape them having sex because they actually do have a connection. The jocks videotape Rachel and her, I guess, new boyfriend having sex, and then they pretend to accept her. So after the winning football game, Rachel is taken with the friends to this after party.
Yeah.
This party.
It's like at a mansion. It's probably somebody's rented out house or something like that.
Super.
Which I think what you're about to tell us about is fucked up too. It's just like, I didn't like the movie, but this part, I really felt her pain.
Yeah. So what they did was they invited her there just to showcase the video of her having sex with the dude,
Mm-hmm.
and then telling her and showing her the book of how many points that fuck was
Right.
worth.
And when you say showcase, you're talking about they
They
put it on the
played it
big screen.
on the big screen
on
for
all
the whole party
TV.
to see.
Yes, everybody.
Right? And that's when Rachel gets pissed the fuck off.
Yeah. Essentially, that's where we get to
Her
the
tattoo,
prom scene.
the thorns go all over her body, and that's when you know shit's gonna get real.
What did you think about that part?
I didn't like it.
That was stupid, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason the thorns and the
No.
tattoo should grow all over her. Like, this is where it got into so much of the late 90s, early 2000s cliche.
Yeah.
Like, it was, like you said, it was like she's all that mixed with a little bit of Carrie. And just, like, it was just stupid. Like, some of the humor was dumb. Like, I can tell you one point that I remember when the nerdy guy who bangs Stifler's mom's trying to get into the mega house party and nobody will let him in, and he just keeps getting drunk and drunk, and then later on when the house is burning down, it's like, man, we missed one hell of a party.
Right.
Like, stupid. That's like
so
dumb
but there are
shit.
some things I do want to touch on. So she starts, killing everybody, and I'm talking about like really fucked up ways. Like there's a girl with glasses, and she has the glasses break into her face,
into her eyes. That was the girl who befriended her to bring her to the party.
Yeah, she like tricked her to come to the party, and then another guy gets his nuts harpooned off.
Wait, yeah, that was what's his name, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was
Home Improvement guy.
Yeah. And then and then the other guy, like the main bad guy
who looks like Kevin Dillon,
who looks like Victory. He gets drowned.
He gets drowned because she gets thrown into a pool that has one of those.
Because he shoots her with the flare gun.
Yeah, it has one of those automatic screens.
Harpoons and flare guns.
What is it? Those automatic covers, those tops. Covers. Yeah, and he gets stuck underneath, and then he ends up drowning.
And that's a fucked up way to die. Like, I don't want to drown.
Yeah, she got really, and then she even like gets mad at the guy who.
Well, so here's the thing: throughout the movie, Sue is trying to help her. Sue finds out where the mom is to try to see, hey, maybe because in her interactions as a guidance counselor, since her best friend has died, Sue is being good to her and trying to talk to her like therapeutically. And so she finds out that Rachel has some Carrie-like tendencies.
Yeah.
She can move shit because she moves shit when she's there, unintentionally shown. She's like, just her emotions get the better of her, and she like breaks something a snow globe or something. It shatters. So Sue has gone to Arkham to visit the mom.
Right.
The mom tells her that Carrie and Rachel share the same dad.
Father. Right, yeah. So that's the connection between the two.
Yeah.
Now, in some of the things that I read on this second or part 2, The Rage, was that it technically was a script that wasn't even written to be a sequel to Carrie. It just had so many similarities that then they were like, oh, well, let's just
embrace our copying. Yeah.
And apparently the director who got noted for directing it came in afterwards. I think they were given... or they weren't the original. I think they were like thrown into this mix after. So they had to reshoot some scenes and basically kind of make it make sense,
right. So here's the thing. Sue and the mom show up at the party.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And Sue gets killed instantly at the door.
I didn't like that, although it was a cool kill. But I thought, like, again, she's the final girl. She needs to have some resolution. And she gets like a harpoon through a dude's head, through a door, through her head. And they do this really cool, like,
open the door and there's a dead body on either side.
And that visual, I get it. Okay, they were going for that. But they could have harpooned any random nobody and got the same effect out of the double door
I
scene.
didn't like that Sue died.
Yeah.
But... I didn't like a lot of things about this movie.
Of course.
Now, her boyfriend guy shows up, and then we find out that he actually loves her.
Yeah, he's like,
but she's like, I'm dying anyway, so she like saves his life. She dies, the mom dies, Sue dies, everybody at the party dies. Then later on, dude's in college, and he has her dog, and then he hallucinates that she comes inside, and they're in love. Wow, what a 90-ass 90s movie.
Yeah.
Now, here's the one thing that I did remember about this is in the 90s, there was this group of guys called the Spur Posse.
The Spur Posse.
The Spur Posse.
This is a Texas thing, right?
They just like the Spurs.
I've never heard
the
of the Spur
team.
Posse.
So there were these people from Lakewood, California, and there were this group of guys who did this. They kept scores of all of their sexual conquests.
Yeah, well, most
And in the
guys
night, but
keep
an actual
some sort.
tally. And don't tell me most guys do that, because I don't think guys, I don't think most guys keep a tally of these are the points you get for each girl. Now, they use the
No.
point system to keep track of their sexual assaults, their sexual conquests, and the statutory rapes.
No,
Now,
that's
this is why in the 90s, Lakewood was Rapewood.
Rapewood. Where's
Yeah.
Lakewood at?
That way. So I wrote some of this down, so I'm just going to read it. In 93, LA County sheriffs arrested members of the posse for their sex crimes. Prosecutors later dropped all but one of the charges after being unable to prove most of the encounters were non-consensual. Because you remember in the 90s, it was okay for guys to rape women. Do you remember that? Although many were underage and some as young as 10.
It's
Rumors
pitiful.
that the Spurs would harm women who resisted led most women to pseudo consent so that they wouldn't get hurt. One member of the posse was convicted of lewd conduct with a 10-year-old and spent 1 year at the Kirby Juvenile Detention Center. He later explained that the young girl was selected because he needed more points so he could make a name for himself. Some of the parents defended their boys, claiming they only did what any red-blooded American boy would do.
So right there, that's where you thought I was about to defend them, saying any red flag. No, I mean this is more horrific than I realized what you were going into. I'm just saying, as teenage boys, you try to keep some sort of account of, like, if like when you finally do get laid, you'd be like, well, I've got at least 2 or 3 under my belt.
No, I'm talking about like actively trying to
Yeah,
ruin it. And then here's the thing: it wasn't up until recently that society started giving a shit about what happened to us when we were sexually assaulted. They would drag names through the mud. They would say that, we deserved it. They would say that we were all these negative things when in reality, we were avoiding harm. Like, I've definitely talked to you before about how sometimes it's just easier to go with it than to fight because you're scared for your life. So I do want to say this. I got this from the LA Times. On one talk show, a Spur member, Billy Sheehan, revealed that his parents bought him condoms by the box load. And he bragged that he had the high sorcerer. He was the high sorcerer with 66 points, 3 more than Posse founder Dana Bellman. Dana's dad, Donald, was the one who said any red-blooded American would do the same thing. And then he said, what did he say? He said that he called those girls trash.
What year?
They're as young as 10 years old.
What year was this?
93.
93?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah. So many fucked up things were going on in the 90s, especially out here in LA, man.
Yeah. Well, so 92 was the riots. 93 was Rapewood. 94 was Northridge earthquake. It was a tumultuous time. But so I did recall that, which is why I was able to go back and look at it. But it was absolutely very much the same way. In the movie, they did talk about how statutory rape, and that they had to drop the charges because it was really hard to prove that it was not consensual. I've been watching Night Stalker.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was the same thing. Like, Richard Ramirez kidnapped and raped a 6-year-old girl, and they didn't convict him or even charge him with those crimes because it was going to be too difficult for these children, because it was more than just one. It was a lot of, I think, 13 children.
You told me this. Like, it was going to be something where taking them through the trial process was going to be like
more
worse.
Detrimental. And he was already going to go to jail for killing.
Right.
So they didn't bring him up on those charges, but he definitely was a pedophile.
Right.
So I think maybe along the same lines, they were unable to prove consent. But it was just fucked up the way it happened, because so many women, so many girls were unable to really defend themselves because, again, this guy called them trash, not knowing who they are, just because they slept with his son. I mean, if somebody was forcing me, how is that my fault?
Yeah, I mean, I have no answers for that because I'm like, I can't even imagine. I can't fathom that kind of shit.
Yeah, and that's why I'm friends with you.
Yeah,
Because you don't have that in your body. You don't have
no,
that
it's
in your
weird. I
way of
like to
being.
create things, so to destroy things. I mean, I guess I've destroyed a few things in my life, but like the point is, like, I genuinely don't have any of those kind of thoughts where, like, I don't know, I just can't see that being c- considered normal, and then you justifying it somehow. It's so weird. But yeah, there's the bullying aspect, and some of the lighter issues I don't totally can touch base with and
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
Um,
So the rage. I mean, you don't have to watch it.
if you're wanting to go back, if you've never seen Carrie the original, obviously you should go watch it.
Yeah,
Probably it's
and
cinematic.
it's amazing, and it has a lot of connections to Psycho, which
Mhm.
I love. It has the crazy mom. It has the crazy ass music. It has a shower scene, right?
Okay.
There's a character named Norma and Bates High School. You
Oh,
know,
oh, right, yeah. I think that was a thing. Like it was Bates High School as an homage to,
right?
right, and
Because
then
that character Norma was just added.
in one of them, it might have been Rage Carrie too. Yeah, I might have when they go to the college scene later on, it's actually called King's University or
Oh,
something
really?
because it's a
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah throwback to
Um,
Stephen King.
so what carried both the remake and the original showed us was the book isn't always the movie can deviate from the book and still be really good.
Hmm.
And that's it. I haven't read the book, but it still was really, really good. And then I wrote something that I want to. No, I guess I didn't have
Well,
anything.
my little recap of the three again was Carrie was a great movie. The remake was also done really well, enough to where I don't think that it falls into the category that most of these remakes fall into, which is shit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the part two is exactly what you assumed a part two would have been, especially for being made in the 90s, late 90s at that. It definitely is cheesy, corny, 90s, and it does not have the power and the filmmaking expertise as the first one did. So it really isn't worth your time unless you want to do what we did, which is like explore the entire series, I guess, and just have some fun rewatching some shit.
I think all three movies ultimately are about ultimately something that is supposed to build you up and carry you on into greatness and to in your power and stuff can ultimately be the thing that destroys you. Carrie's ascension into womanhood ultimately is what destroyed her.
Hmm.
Carrie's Rachel in the rage wanting to accept love and a partner into her life
Hmm.
ultimately destroyed her.
Yeah,
It's that trust that she learned to build ultimately destroyed her.
sure.
So I think I think what it does tell us is that you can you can grow and you can build, but you always have to be wary of there can be a fall.
Sure.
And you have to just prepare yourself for the fall.
Sure.
And when you do it, make sure you're not destroying yourself in the same way.
Yeah.
Like you're able to do all of these wonderful things, but if you're going to destroy your life trying to stay there, there's no point in doing that.
Yeah. On a very horrific level, I don't know how much, like, this is one of those where again I go back and I feel like I know it's a horror movie. It's got horrible things that happen in it. But it's very transparent. So there's no real, like, it's not spooky, it's not supernatural, it's not, I mean, it is super, what am I trying to say? Like, it does have elements of all that, but it's not like a shock you, scare you movie throughout the thing. There's no major jump scares or anything like that. You pretty much know what's going on until the end. And even at the end, it's just revenge and she's just killing people. So it becomes more of a gore fest than anything else. But it's not a movie that you, like, I feel, are going to be scared to turn the lights off at night unless you think that Margaret White's going to show up in your bathroom. That's all I'm saying. Jaws made people not want to go into the water. I don't think Carrie had a major impact where it stopped people from doing certain things. They just knew that there's like,
Well, what Carrie actually did was it really was about how women find their own power and how men fear that and try to suppress it. Especially in that time. Like I mentioned, it was during the second wave of feminism and also the rise of the evangelical movement, which was, I mean, it was a movement that was supposed to lift up their people, but really just try to keep women below water,
Yeah.
you know? So it very much was reflective of the time. It's women can do all this damage, so we better suppress them.
Hmm. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you took out the supernatural element with her even moving shit, it would still be that movie, and it would be still considered, I guess, a horror movie because there's horrible things that happen in it.
Well, it might
But
have just been a very emotional drama.
an emotional drama,
Yeah.
sure.
I don't know. I feel, unfortunately, we don't learn from history, which is why we had a fascist in the presidential office. We don't learn from our history, and people are continuously yeah, people don't have telekinetic powers and are killing us, but why do my children know what to do in the event of a school shooter? Why? 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 Because unfortunately these things happen, and people who have mental health issues don't get mental health treatment. People actively are trying to tear down people who are different than themselves. That's xenophobia. I mean, if we all understood that we all have our own challenges and we all have the ability to raise somebody up or destroy them, we might be more inclined to help raise each other up versus just constantly shitting on one another.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know. I'm just saying.
Okay. It's something to think about.
Yeah. So it was a bloody good movie.
Bloody good. Yes, indeed.
I thought I had written the kill count, but I don't think I
Did you keep a
did.
kill count? How could you keep a kill count? Like, everybody died. The whole place burned down, right?
Yeah, but I thought I had a kill count.
Well, I don't know. We watched 3 movies in a row for one episode, so it's a lot to take in. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I
We'll
keep
pare it
getting,
down as best we can.
I keep getting. Well, it was good to like see. I think sometimes when we get into a movie that has multiple series, a franchise, whatever, it is maybe good for us to break it down or do a comparison with like remake versus original. At least that's cool.
Well, that's it for us today. Thanks so much for tuning in. A special thank you to Nicole, who urged us to do the Carrie series.
Yeah.
I'm very glad that we did it. And I normally am not for remakes, and I would not have watched the Carrie remake otherwise. So thank you so much for reaching out. If you have a movie or a series that you want us to do, hit us up. What is it? Hello at icecreampodcast.com.
Right, yeah. Hello at icecreampodcast.com.
Or you can go to our website, icecreampodcast.com, and you can submit a movie there.
Yes. Follow us on all of the social media outlets out there. Ice Cream Parlor, ice cream.
It's in the show notes.
Yeah, it's all there. You know where to find it. Go follow us, like and subscribe.
Subscribe, tell a friend, and
we'll see you
next time
on the flip side.
The flippity flop. Okay, bye.
Bye.